Well, hey there, welcome to day 26 of the Get Up and Go 40-day free challenge. We're getting up and going. What the heck does get up and go mean to you? To me, it means take action. It means to get moving. It means to do something versus sitting around and waiting and just reacting to things that happen around me. It means getting my rear in gear and moving my life in the direction I want it to. That's, to me, what the Get Up and Go challenge is all about. It's about picking the area of your life, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, relationships, or contribution, picking one of those areas or moving forward a little bit in all of those areas. This challenge is long enough, 40 days is long enough for us to go through the SOAP model because we want to clean up our act and make sure we're always moving in the direction that's right for us. And we do that by soaping things up. And before I get into the P today, because the P in SOAP is, of course, progress. How do we take the first three steps, the things that we've done so far, the action that we took, how do we take that and make that a ritual or a habit or a pattern? Remember we were talking about patterns yesterday, and how do we, I promised that I would talk about what is the best pattern interrupt. Now, the reason this is the best is because we automatically do it. We're always doing it all the time on a subconscious level. Lots of the time we don't realize that we're doing it, but we're always doing it. What is that thing? What is the best pattern interrupt? Before I talk about progress and how I'm doing that with respect to my mental well-being and my mental health, what is that best pattern interrupt? That best pattern interrupt is asking questions. Questions are the best, absolute best pattern interrupt. Why? Because, number one, we're always evaluating everything. Think about how you think and how you see things and how you experience life. We experience life by comparing it to our past experiences, by comparing it to what we want, by comparing it to our feelings. Comparisons are asking questions. Is this similar to anything I've experienced before? Is this different? How is this different? Have I ever experienced anything like this before? What does this mean to me? All of those are questions. Our brains automatically think in evaluative, questioning manner. We just do. Don't take my word for this. Test this on yourself. Just sit quietly somewhere. Okay, I'm observing this magnifying glass. What color is this magnifying glass? How strong is this magnifying glass? What does this magnifying glass mean to me? How can I use this magnifying glass? Anything that we look at, observe, or see, this, anytime we see a person, anytime we see a thing, we are automatically asking questions about it. And that's how we're deciding if it's dangerous for us, how we need to react, how we need to respond. So the fastest way to have a pattern interrupt on yourself is to ask questions. Ask a different question. Ask a better question. I've got some really personal experience with asking a better question. When I was younger and prior to my having a sudden cardiac arrest, I was living my life, and we all have. Tony Robbins taught this, and I really applied this lesson. I half-ass applied it when I first heard about it because I like to do things with what I learned, but I didn't really think about it, and I didn't get honest with myself, and I didn't really do the deep work I needed to do when I first learned the concept of your question. All of us in our life have this overriding question that we automatically ask. And it turns out, after my sudden cardiac arrest, I did this exercise again, and I got serious about it. And I really started to dive into and understand my primary question. Turns out, my primary question for the previous probably 10 or 15 years was WTF. If you don't know what WTF is, I'm not going to say it. Just ask in the comments below and I'll write it, right? I don't use the F word very much, but obviously in my brain and in my mental thinking, I was using it all the time, like thousands of times a day. And it was just how I filtered everything. Guess what? If you filter everything through the question WTF, is that an empowering question, or is that a question that is automatically judging that everything is wrong or that something's wrong, and therefore if something's wrong, I have to fix it or be frustrated about it, or somehow it's going to impact me in a negative way? Well, guess what? It did impact me in a negative way, up to and including having a sudden cardiac arrest, because everything was wrong. Everything in my life was wrong to the point where I got overwhelmed and my body decided it was just going to check out and shut down. not on a conscious level. Heck, I didn't even know what a sudden cardiac arrest was back then until after it happened to me. And I was lucky enough to be one of those people that survived that event. Vast majority of people don't. 97% of people die instantly and they're never even found or discovered. Of those 7% or 93%, and then of the 7% that survive, there's like 90% of them or 90-some% of them that have brain damage and are never the same again because they've lost oxygen to their brain. If your heart's not beating, guess what? Your brain doesn't get oxygen. If your brain doesn't get oxygen, you lose brain function. You lose bodily functions and brain function. And if you're not found soon enough, you die and you stay dead. Well, I was lucky enough that I was found right away and I was kept going until they could jumpstart my heart and then freeze me and do all kinds of coma type things and make sure that I actually was one of the very fortunate ones that woke up and recovered from that event. But after that event, of course, I needed to figure out what happened, right? It was the biggest wake-up call of my life, and I needed to know what was going on. And it turns out that questions were one of the best ways for me to answer what had happened to me, because that was my biggest question. What the hell happened, right? How did I get here? And I needed to do a lot of exploring to figure out, and a lot of deep mental work to find out what and how I'd gotten there. And the one thing that sticks with me the most is that I discovered that my primary question was, what the F? And that meant I was looking at everything through a filter of, it's wrong, it's not right, something is got to be changed. And if something's always got to be changed, you're not really living in the now, right? You're not really happy with anything. And I wasn't. I mean, I loved my kids, but a whole lot of other areas of my life were super messed up. And I needed to fix them. And fixing them primarily started with picking a different question. So guess what? We operate automatically. One of our patterns is to operate automatically off of a primary question. But we can change that primary question. I didn't know we could change it. Now, I know Tony Robbins told me probably 25 years earlier I could change it, but I didn't. I didn't consciously say, this is going to be my driving question. And it's really interesting. If you watch people's behavior, if you listen to the way they talk, if you pay attention, you will see people's primary question very clearly and before they even do. It was interesting. Turns out my daughter and my sisters, and my in-laws were making bets on what were going to be the first words out of my mouth when I woke up from the coma following that sudden cardiac arrest. And of course, my daughter and my sister, my sister's closest to me in age, she and my daughter both guessed that WTF were going to be the first words out of my mouth. Guess what the first words out of my mouth were? WTF in a croaky voice, because I'd had a tube down my throat for over a week, But that was the first thing that I said when I woke up in the hospital from that coma. So that was a clear indication to me that yes, indeed, that was my primary question. But I made quick work of changing that. Over the next week or so, I spent time and energy really crafting and deciding, what is my primary question going to be? What is it going to be? And it's driven me, and it's still a good primary question, but I'm not sure. I'm thinking now, again, that questions have come up. Now is maybe a time to reevaluate and reanalyze and say, is this still the right primary question for me? And the question I replaced WTF with was, what am I creating now? So whenever anything came up, when I was ever looking at anything, when I was deciding, am I going to take this new medication the doctor said I should take or not, or how am I feeling, everything was now evaluated through, what am I creating now? Now, that's been my operating question for several years. Now I'm almost to the point where I need to say, do I want to keep creating things, or is there a better primary question for me? Only I can answer that. Only you can answer that for you. And I think over the weekend, maybe I'll do some deep work over the next couple of days on saying, and just checking in with myself and saying, okay, is what am I creating now still the best primary question for me? Maybe yes, maybe no. Spent the last couple of years doing a whole lot of creating of stuff, but it isn't necessarily the things that I still want to be creating, if that makes any sense. So questions, I contend, are the fastest, easiest, best way to do a pattern interrupt on yourself. Now, there's also things you can do. You can move physically. Moving physically breathing. There's physical things that you can do to as a really quick pattern interrupt. But I say, why not pick something that we're already automatically doing? We always think in questions. We're already automatically doing it. I didn't make this up. I learned it from some brain people that said that, as well as I know Tony Robbins mentioned that as well, that we're always evaluating and questioning everything and asking, what does this mean to me? You know, what color is this? What does beauty mean to me? Everything we ask is questions. So why not use that in our favor? It's like people say, oh, just think positive, think positive. Guess what? You can't just think positive. Thinking positive, if you've got 80,000 thoughts a day, the average person thinks 80,000 thoughts a day. How the heck are you going to filter and think positive on all 80,000 thoughts a day when we are inundated with negative messages from all areas and aspects of our life constantly and continuously? If anybody thinks that the news and the media is positive, raise your hand and share in the comments below. Because if you believe that, you are being impacted by negative messages all the time that you don't even realize are not in your, and by negative I mean not for your personal benefit, right? You know, I get the argument from people a lot that they need to stay informed, they need to stay up to date, because I challenge the people that I work with to take a media and news break, go on a media and news diet or eating plan or feeding my brain plan or your brain plan for just a week, because in the 1980s, the late 1980s, I was at Procter & Gamble and I went through a training, a Louis Tice training it was called, and I don't even know if Louis Tice information's out there anymore, but it was basically, you know, all this positive thinking, not just positive thinking, but it was how to create your own life, right? How to make your life work for you. And in it, the first day they challenged us to give up all media, all news for a week. Now, it was before the internet, right? There was no internet, so we didn't have to give up that, so it's a little harder for folks now. But we just shut ourselves off from media for the week of the training. And it had a huge and profound impact on me. I actually stopped watching the news, and I never picked it up again. And I used to watch the news every day, at least once a day. Now, the news has changed a lot in that 30 plus 40 year period, right? It's changed at 35 years. I don't know how many ever years it is. It's changed a lot. The media is definitely not the same game as it was back then. And even back then, it was good for me to stop consuming it. Guess what? Everything that we need to know in the world, we find out about. Even a pandemic, even things that happen that we should be aware of for our safety and our kids' safety. Other people tell us. People interact with me and they tell me everything I need to know. And if I need to go deeper, I can look into it and I can then get some information and then make my own decision on what it means for me. And I still do that today. So I invite people to take a break from media, take a break from the news, especially for a week. I was popping in periodically to get pandemic updates or things, and I didn't even do that very much during the pandemic. I just would check to see, you know, what are the guidelines, what are we supposed to do and not supposed to do in my area, so that I'd make sure and I was going to be compliant anyway, but just to make sure. Even then with the rioting and things, checked in with a couple things, observed what I was observing personally, and then turned off everybody else's noise about the topic so that I could think for myself and choose and know what was the right thing to do for me and my family and my safety, etc. Because it turns into fighting about people's opinions. It's not about what's really going on. It's about people's deep-seated opinions, and a lot of times they're not even our opinions. They're just things that we've heard, and then they have gotten twisted and twisted through different chains or through passing around or old information being pulled up and shared as if it were new. There's so much manipulation of information in the media right now. If we don't think for ourselves, we're in big, big trouble. So I encourage everybody, take a break, take a week off, ask your own questions, get your own answers, and consider the source that you're getting your answers from. What is their intention? What is their purpose? What is their mission? Because a lot of times it isn't for our benefit. It's to get advertising dollars. It's to get eyeballs. It's to get attention. It's for reasons that have nothing to do with whether the information is right or true or good for us or not. You know, there's a book, one of my favorite books that Jim Edwards recommended to me a long time ago, and I think I'd already had the book and I just hadn't read it, was How to Lie with Statistics. and I learned in my corporate career that you can take information and data, the same numbers, the same tests, the same experiment, the same results, and you can present them in any way you want to show whatever you want, anything you want. If I wanted to show that quality was getting better in a certain area, even if we were having more instances and more challenges, we could still present the data and graph it, and the same raw data could be massaged or manipulated, right, to present the message that we wanted it to. And the same is going on in every aspect and every area of our lives. And mostly we don't know about it. We don't even know that it's happening. All right, so that's a little off topic. Progress. Let's talk about progress now. So questions, I invite you to ask more questions when you need a pattern interrupt. Let me think of a pattern that I've been running recently. Well, since the pandemic, the pattern I've been running recently is not sticking to my physical, and this isn't a mental one, but I'm sure I've done a lot of mental ones too, but a physical one, I wasn't sticking to what I normally do for my physical activity and what I normally do for my consumption, what I eat for energy, what I eat. And I could make excuses and say, oh, it's because I couldn't get out shopping. Well, I wasn't getting out shopping anyway before the pandemic, so that's not a very valid excuse. And then I was making the excuse that, oh, I'm hanging out with my granddaughter every day, all day, so I'm more apt to munch on or snack on some of the things she are, which are great for a 4 or 5 year old, but they're not so great for a 60-year-old. So I could make all these excuses, but the truth is, I was getting into some bad patterns, bad habits. Oh, I need more energy to keep up with her, so I'm just going to have a couple Oreos. Oh, whatever it was. And I needed to interrupt that pattern. So, as part of this challenge, beginning the physical one, the day one, the first one I addressed was physical changes and physical things that are going on. And I decided I was going to give up sugar. So I've been not eating any sweets or any sugar, and what's today, day 26. So for 26 days. And I'll go all 40 days, and then I'll probably have sugar, because I'll like a little sugar once in a while. But I committed to myself that I needed a pattern interrupt, and I found that by testing myself in the past, if I do a physical change when I want a physical change in my life, it has the biggest impact. And one of those is give up sugar, give up salt, give up processed foods. Those three are the ones I kind of alternately change, or eat more protein, or drink more water. You know, there's just a handful of things that we all can do super easily, and then I just make it for different amounts of days. Maybe I'll do just a 5-day no sugar, or a 10-day no sugar. I've done that. I had a 30-day no sugar, and now I'm doing a 40-day no sugar, because that I know will interrupt the pattern of how my body is craving and wanting sugar. Kind of to the point now at day 26 that, yeah, I'll see something. I made her chocolate chip cookies yesterday. I didn't even want one. I wasn't even tempted by it. And I was smart enough to put the sea salt caramels in the way back of the pantry where I don't even see them. I got oatmeal and other things in front of them so I don't even see them. And so that, if I'm not tempted, it's easier to have more willpower. So what am I doing for my mental capacity, my brain, in order to interrupt the pattern, number one, and then also to, I'm actually doing a bunch of things, but I'll only share one. My son gave me some audio books that are really, really good for mindset and thinking. And so I'm listening to one. One is for Millionaire Mindset, which, you know, I started listening to yesterday, and then I was having trouble getting my videos processed, so I had to pause it and stop listening to it. But I'm listening to that. I'm also doing the Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting playbook. And so every night before I go to sleep, I spend, and it varies. So far it's been, a half an hour to 45 minutes to an hour doing each of the activities in this playbook. Now, some of them are emotional and have to do with our emotions, which we'll run into next week. Some of them are, there's always discuss and journal, but it asks a lot of questions. It has us draw out models and come up with what things mean to us. And right now, I'm working on the victim things and how we're a victim. And, I like to think I'm not a victim, but guess what? Every single one of us have felt victimized or been victimized or been a victim in some way, shape, or form thousands of times in our life. Some of us more severely than others, other people way more severely than me. But we all have experienced victimhood, being victims of something, of all different things, and all different degrees of things. So it's really, it's hard work to do, And it's not physically hard, it's mentally hard, right? And guess what? Some of the hardest work that we ever do in our lives, in any area of our life, any aspect of our life, is actually the mental work, the preparation, the planning of what it is that we want to do and are going to do. If you ask 100 people what they want, most of them will give you a laundry list of all of the things that they don't want. Like of 100 people, 80 to 90% will give you the big list of what they don't want, but they will have a hard time articulating, saying, this is what I want. This is really what I want. This is what I want in each and every area and aspect of my life. Most people don't know that. Most people don't even think about it. And guess what? If we don't think about something, if we don't know where we're going, we're just like hopping in a car and driving randomly till we run out of gas. Same thing with our life. We have to decide what it is we want, where we want to go, and then that's how we get there. That's the first step to getting anywhere. So in order to make progress, I have committed to doing this whole book, and it's definitely going to take me more than till the end of the challenge, right? I'm only on page 30. Let's see, I'm not even on page 33. I'm on page, magnifying glass, where are you when I need you? Page 32 I'll start tonight. And it's a quick rundown on how victims play the game. It talks about the role of victims and stuff. So it's really interesting. I gotta tell you, I don't really spend much time thinking about victims. Probably the last time I thought about victims and victimhood was the last time I went through this book, which was back in 2011. So I'm excited. I'm actually excited to be going through it again. Because I had forgotten about the activities in it. And some of them are absolutely awesome and so powerful. And they're the simplest activities, but they're like, they get you thinking about things that you've never or you haven't thought about for a long time, or may have never even considered or thought about before. It's definitely a belief stretching, possibility expanding book. So from a thoughts time process, this is the thing I'm going to continue doing through the end of the challenge and beyond, to infinity and beyond. Now normally when we're talking about progress, we look at our lifeline. We've looked at our lifeline from 3 different aspects now, and I haven't put mental on here. Maybe I'll pick a different color. I should clean this up and do it differently. I will. But I could do my mental processes, and I could timeline out my life about my thought processes. And I don't know if it would be positive above the line, negative below the line, and where and how we would map that out. But, you know, it's the same way with our physical, our relationships, and our financial. It's kind of all across the board. And it's just my intuitive guess about where I'm going. So I could do the lifeline exercise. That's a good one. And see how I'm trending. I always want to be trending up, right? But that doesn't really help me address the, am I making progress? Am I making progress toward what it is that I want? And so what I like to do is I like to, on a monthly basis, look at the 7 categories, 7 areas of my life, and ask myself, how am I doing? How do I feel right now like I'm doing? And guess what? They go up and down and up and down and up and down, just like everything else in our life. Sometimes my physical well-being has been like an 8 plus. Other times it's been like a 2, right? I guess when I was dead it was a 0. But it changes based on the snapshot. It's just like a picture. A snapshot is just an instant in time. And so once a month, I like to take that snapshot, and I don't get all bent out of shape about it. I just like to look at it to kind of give myself a guide of, okay, what area do I really want to focus on now? And when I'm doing a challenge right now, every 5 days, I am focusing on a different area. You can focus on that one with me, or you can pick a different one, or you can do the same area. If finances are really freaking you out, just do this over and over and over again with your finances, and keep adding and improving and continuously moving toward the thing that you want. Each time you go through the SOAP process, you move significantly ahead. I think that you probably are experiencing that with me. I know I'm sure experiencing it. Even though I'm doing different areas of my life, I'm definitely getting movement in each area of my life. So, mental, doing the book. I will continue to do the book. And, you know, every day I'm like, wow, listening. And I notice because it's impacting my sleep. And I'll wake up early thinking about, or I'll wake up in the middle of the night thinking about something that I was reading about and thinking about and like, oh, light bulb moment. So it's really fun to have those. I don't know about you, but I like having aha moments and realizing some of the things I've struggled with for years because I haven't been focusing on them properly or paying attention or asking the right questions, or even realizing that I had a trigger that was being tripped and a pattern that I was running that is really dysfunctional for me. And when we become consciously aware of things, like questioning them, that's when we can make real massive changes in our life and in our experiences. So that's it for our progress. We want to make progress by systematizing and automating or creating rituals or habits out of something. Share them mentally. I'm going to continue to work through that book. And then after that, I'll probably come up with something else as well. Because like I said, I don't want to stay at a 7 mentally. I need to get back to get up to like a 9 or 10 in my estimation to really be clicking on all the cylinders I want to be clicking on. Because my thoughts drive my beliefs, which drive my feelings, which drive my everything, and determines what I will or will not do in any area of my life. It works the same for all of us, whether we believe it or not. All right, that's it. Have an absolutely amazing day. If I can help you in any way, or if you've got any questions about progress or questions, hit me up in the comments below. Otherwise, I will be with you tomorrow with day 27 of our 40-day Get Up and Go challenge. Get up, go, have an amazing day.